This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their taproom in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week, we're talking to Kansas City's Boulevard Brewing. I'm Tim Dennis, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our guest.
Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Stephen Pauwels, the Brewmaster for Boulevard Brewing. We're going to talk about Steve's journey from Belgium to Kansas City, some brewing innovations, classic Boulevard beers like Tank 7, the latest releases, and we might even touch on the new X-Men movie, just maybe. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
We appreciate it very much. Yeah, we're enjoying some Tank 7 right now. Yes. We couldn't wait to get the show going to get into this. We're big Saison fans, and we're really enjoying this one. Very flavorful, aromatic Saison.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Brian, this week, how was your week?
It's been a busy week. You know, man, went over to Burnt Hickory. We had the collaboration with them. That was the collaboration. We talked about the name, and it was eventually became Durham's Digits Milkshake IPA.
Okay.
Because Brad Durham came up with the concept. He was the winner, so we tapped that. So very fruity, a lot of lactose in that. Yeah.
You say the winner. That was a contest we ran with Burnt Hickory on our website to pick a cask, a blend to do for their anniversary party. Brad won that, and he wanted smoothie. He got smoothie. There was a lot of smoothie in that beer.
There's a lot of smoothie. That's the most smoothie I've ever had in a beer. There's very heavy on the smoothie. Also had some Ezekiel's Wheel while I was there, and a Mud Honey variant that was actually a Bock. I forget what all was in it, though. I think it's called I'm Now. But then we went over to Dry County, and you had some interesting beer, and I'm doing air quotes now.
I did. You know what? No shame in my game. I drank frozen vodka drinks because Dry County now has a distillery license. They can have liquor. They don't distill there now, but they do blend. They get things in, blend and bottle, and they have a couple of frozen smoothie machines there that they keep some cocktails in, frozen cocktails, daiquiri, margarita, whatever you want to call it. So I had a couple of those. So
they're pretty nice. Also, they was it Two Spikes? Was that their red Pilsner?
I think so.
Yeah, that was really tasty. And
for Atlanta United that. So, and they had, I think they had a milkshake there too, didn't they? That was good. Were they doing the Juice County release?
The Juice County, that was the thing. The milkshake. You know what? Was that the one that was Cloudy Decisions?
I think so.
I think that's what that was
Stephen,
called.
has Boulevard entered the milkshake realm yet?
Not really, no. We've done a little trials, but I'm just trying to get wrap my head around it. I had some really good ones. I was at Firestone Walker Invitational this weekend, and I had some really good ones. I don't know. I
heard there were a lot of good beers there at the Invitational.
You know, it wasn't bad. No, I'm lying. It's an unbelievable fact. It's kind of top notch, and all the breweries that are there are cool people that make great beer, and it's just really, really fun to hang out with all these people, and it's really, really great. I think today is Wednesday, and I think I'm recovered.
Just barely though, right? Just
barely, barely.
I struggle with the whole concept of that milkshake IPA. How much is too much milkshake? I think there needs to be a balance there, and it seems like it's all over the board. So you never know
if they go too far. I agree, Brian. If you balance those flavors out, you can make it really nice, but it can go you can go overboard, and a lot of people do.
Yes, indeed. There was another thing. We did a special little recording here on Sunday, didn't we?
We did. We had some friends in the studio, and I still don't know. I don't know all the rules with the FCC. I don't know if we can say their name on the radio. So we'll say it's the B Beer Podcast.
Yes.
And we'll post links on all our social media, but we did an episode with them. They came to our studio, but we recorded their show. So when that's out, we'll definitely get the links on social media. It was a very interesting conversation.
Yes, it was. You know what? I really enjoyed that show. It was
fun.
That's a must listen for sure.
We had a good time there.
So, Tim, I think it's time for us to talk about the beers of the week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we have a lot of great beers to get into. We got lots of Boulevard stuff. As I mentioned, we have the Boulevard Tank 7 Saison that we've been enjoying. Fantastic beer. We have their Space Camper IPA. And I forget the pancake one, Brian. What is the pancake?
I think it's hold the pancakes.
Hold the pancakes. Yeah. Is that right, Stephen?
Yeah, hold the pancakes. Yeah.
So we're going to get in. And I think you actually brought a Saison-Brett. Is that right?
Oh, I've got a Saison-Brett and about 6 or 7 other large format beers from at least 4 years ago. So from Boulevard. It's going to be exciting.
We're big fans, Stephen. So our cellars have quite a few Boulevards in there. For,
and you have beers from us from 4 years ago?
We do, yeah. Wow. Love Childs and Saison-Bretts and that. We've got some in there.
There's a Love Child number 5 in my cooler, and I'm just going off the top of my head. And I think there's an Imperial Stout from 2013, and there's some of the chocolate ones. There's a coffee chocolate, and I think a tart cherry chocolate. They're all the large format 750s. So those were always so exciting back in the day, picking those up when they hit the shelves around here.
Fantastic. Wow. And a great thing with the Love Child series, because when a new series comes out, you've got to try it. You've got to try it. You've got to compare it to the previous one. I think the furthest back I've been able to save was like 3 versions in a row. I think I've tried 3, next to each other, but they didn't last any longer than that. I drank them before I could get more of a vertical than that. So,
well, I have to tell you, beer is made to be drank. It's okay. You can do it.
See, that's what I keep telling myself. I have those bottles in the cellar, and I think a lot of beer geeks are probably the same way. You're like, I want to save that for a special occasion, but you make it too special and you never open it up. So there are times when I've cracked some of mine open that, the special occasion became, everyday special. Let's get into this beer.
We now have permission to drink those beers. I don't
feel
the
they're made
obligation
to be drank,
man.
They're made to be drank.
Yeah, you know what happens with those bottles that are in your basement? They're sad. They just want to
sad and
lonely.
Yeah, lonely and sad. They just want to be opened and want to be enjoyed because it's only going downhill in your basement.
Well, some of those are supposed to develop well with time. That's what I keep telling myself.
That's it.
Yeah, but they're the exception. Yeah, you're right.
See, yeah, absolutely. Well, Brian, what's happening this week in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, so we knew the numbers for 2018 weren't going to be great in the craft beer industry. Brewbound is reporting that more than half of the top 50 craft breweries in the U.S. saw no growth in 2018. 28 of the top 50 small and independent craft breweries either declined or remained flat last year. Many of the big guys in the top 5 saw losses in their volume sales. Yuengling was down 2%, Boston Beer was down 7%, New Belgium was down 11%, double digits. Breweries like Flying Dog, Full Sail, Bear Republic, they all saw double-digit declines. But the news wasn't all bad. Rhinegeist, Three Floyds, and Georgetown Brewing all saw double-digit growth last year. So stuff is happening.
Okay, I did see that Sweetwater grew, that it was one of the smaller single-digit growth, but they were on the up there, so that's good.
I believe they were around 2 to 3%, if I remember correctly. I did not write them down. So, Tim, I think it's time for another craft beer of the week scandal. Do we have a soundbite for that? Because
we can get something. We'll work on something.
I think we need something. So, a CEO of an Australian beer company posted a homophobic meme to Facebook, and it went viral, like those things do. And that's never good for them when it does. The brewery's name is South Bay Brewing Company, and the image depicted an old-timey bare-knuckle boxler with the words, quote, "non-alcoholic beer? You mean gay lemonade?" unquote. And that's his words, not mine. And of course, that went over as well as anyone should expect. Anyone except the CEO, who claimed he posted it without any thought whatsoever and no offense was intended. But I have to wonder if that's code for I was blackout drunk at the time. So the image has since been deleted. The CEO has resigned, and this isn't the first time that brewery has been in hot water for their social media posts. Earlier this year, they posted, and I quote, "There's nothing wrong with you that me drinking 6 beers can't fix." And apparently this violated the alcoholic beverages advertising code in Australia.
Oh, he didn't think again.
They blamed an outside vendor, an outside advertising agency for that, but they didn't try that again with this latest thing. That's just disastrous.
Ignorance.
Oh,
Brian.
yeah. It's
Straight
so
up
weird.
ignorance. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Stephen Pauwels from Boulevard Brewing. Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So, if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you miss an episode, don't worry. All episodes are available as a podcast. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and never miss a show. Now more from Boulevard Brewing's Stephen Pauwels.
So, Stephen, something we like to start off with that just kind of get a background of the craft beer story. What got you into an interest in craft beer?
Well, that's an interesting question. I grew up in Belgium in a small town called Eeklo, Eeklo. It's kind of the center of the world, basically, with 20,000 people. I don't think anybody heard about it. None of you guys go like, "Oh yeah, I know that town."
Oh yeah, it's a great place. Love it there.
I love their coolers. Oh wait, that's Igloo. Never mind. Sorry.
Oh yeah, right. And my dad worked in a brewery, and as a high school kid, I needed money just like everybody else, and I talked to my dad, like, "Dad, I need to get some kind of job." And he's like, "Well, why don't you come and work at the brewery with me?" So I did, and I did all kinds of jobs as a high school kid, and then also through college and in the brewery. And there was a guy in a white lab coat running around, and he was telling people what to do and drank beer all day. I'm like, wow, this guy has a cool job. And he was the brewmaster. I'm like, yes, now I know what I want to be. So sure enough, I went to college, got a engineering degree, brewing fermentation technology. And from there, it's like, that's my goal in life. I want to be a brewer, and I want to have a life where I never have to pay for my beer anymore. And there you go.
I think I succeeded. Good goal. Yes, absolutely.
Good choice. Yeah.
Now, one thing we found interesting, we were talking a little bit off air, Stephen, about our friend here in Atlanta, Joran van Genderachter, who is also a brewer from Belgium, and he's opening up Halfway Crooks Brewing here in Atlanta. But one thing that he'd shared with us is that it's extremely hard for a Belgian brewer to leave Belgium to brew. So what made you decide to leave Belgium and come to America to brew?
When I kind of was in my late 20s, there was a big brewery in Belgium that's now the largest brewery in the world, and they were buying a lot of small breweries in Belgium, kind of family-owned breweries. So it was really difficult to find a job in a brewery. And then on top of that, most of the breweries are family-owned, so you can only do that much in a brewery. And I was always very interested in just the scene in the mid to late 90s already in the U.S., how these craft breweries, they're doing really cool stuff. Some crazy stuff too, like making pizza beer by putting a keg with slices of tomato on a radiator and heating it up until you get the extracted flavor of tomato. So I'm like, what are they doing?
There you go.
But I was very interested in that. So
So I think you might find it interesting, having said that when Tim and I were homebrewing, it's actually my recipe. We made a sun-dried tomato and basil saison, and it wasn't terrible. It was actually rather nice. Is that something you would ever try at Boulevard?
I knew I had to be very careful what I was going to say here.
See? There you go, right?
Yeah. Shoot. Sure. Yeah, we could try it.
Sure,
yeah.
He's giving it a shot. We've shared this story several times, and it was a beer that we had a couple friends that loved it, said it was one of their favorite beers. We had one friend, probably the most open and honest review that we got was, I think you nailed exactly what you were going for here. I just don't ever want to drink it again. So we're like awesome. Fair enough, man.
That's
fair
awesome.
enough.
Well, I have to say, one of the favorite beers I ever had, it was somewhere in South America, was a Basil Pilsner, and it was unbelievable. Really, really cool beer.
I could see that being tasty. Yeah.
I think basil is an underappreciated potential ingredient or an adjunct in beer. It used judiciously. I've had beer where it was ridiculous. Used judiciously, it has a very pleasant kind of a floral, sweet thing it can contribute to a beer. I think it could do really well if it's used properly.
I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's when you dose it correctly. If it's too much, it's like, oh, what's this tea doing in my beer? It's kind of same with mint. It's so pleasant until it becomes toothpaste. And you got to find the right spot.
Yeah. So what was it like going from drinking the beers in Belgium and you come over to Kansas City? I mean, there's a bit of a shock there, a bit of you have to adjust, right? I mean, it had to have been different.
Yeah, it definitely was. I remember when I came over here for an interview. I mean, it was everybody who here in Kansas City and most of the U.S. too. They're just amazingly friendly. And when I came here, these guys, the brewers, they were kind of like sponges. They were just absorbing all the information I had to share, and it was just unbelievable. And then the weekend that I came over was Super Bowl weekend, and they took me to a party and told me like, "Hey, this is football." I'm like, "No, football is played with a round ball."
Right. Yeah. This is it. Welcome to America.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, if you want to get a good idea of an American party and drinking and that, Super Bowl party is a good place to do it. So that's a good break you into American party habits there.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun.
Now, do you still keep up with, I guess, the trends in that in Belgium with the Belgian brewing scene?
I don't, not that much anymore. I don't go to Belgium that often, neither. I think I'm already, to be honest, I'm completely occupied just trying to keep up here with the brewing scene in the U.S.
Okay.
And I think I'm losing that battle too.
Oh, it's plenty to keep up with.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
We've seen it. Our show is a little over 3 years old, and just here in Georgia, not just nationwide, but just here in Georgia, the growth over the last few years alone has been insane.
So, you know what? I was doing some background search on Boulevard and where you're at and how you're developing and how you've grown. And how many brewers do you have working for you now? I heard a really large number, but I'm not sure if it was true.
I should know that, right? I think it's 12.
Is it 12? Okay.
Yeah.
I think somebody said 18 or 19 or something like that. And I'm like, I guess I could believe it because they are very big, but I'm like, that's a lot of brewers. I'm like, does the equipment ever sleep there? Is it constantly brewing? Are you constantly brewing, filling tanks, emptying tanks and all that?
Well, it's on the brewers, basically there's about 9 that work, and I include guys that do filtration. That's a separate group. And then we have a couple of guys in the cellar, and then the brew house runs around the clock from Monday morning somewhere up till Friday sometime. And then we have a team of 3 people that only do barrel aging, and they work on some barrel aging and some special projects.
So you have a group that just does filtration, huh?
Yeah.
Did I hear that? How about that? Okay.
I saw an ad that there's a guy who's anti-filtration, who's throwing all the filters out of the brewery
At Boulevard.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Did you see that advertisement?
I missed that one. No.
It was on their social media account. It was the unfiltration manager? Is that right?
Yeah, I saw that too. I don't know.
Okay. See, troublemakers. That's, I saw actually you guys have some really entertaining videos, and I guess I'll use that to kind of jump into collaborations that you've done. And I saw the one, I'm a big fan of rap and hip hop, and all that. So, and I saw you did a collaboration with Tech Nine Bulu, and I saw a video they did with him to where I think he was at a brewery tour, and no matter what they did, he would yell out, "Where's the Bulu?" Something along those lines. So,
yeah.
Getting that. Now, I'm assuming you were involved in that collaboration with him, correct?
I was very minimum
Okay.
Very minimal. To be honest, it's a very interesting collaboration. I think it kind of shows how we work at Boulevard. This was a guy who works in our cellar, and then the lady who runs our sensory panel. And they were talking about, what we should do? We should just make a beer with Tech Nine. He's one of the biggest stars in Kansas City. They're like, we don't know what to do, and I don't know. Should we really do this? And I told Abby, who runs our sensory program, I was like, why don't you just email him? And she's like, really? Should I do that? So she emailed him the day after she got a response, like, yes, let's do it. So sure enough, a week later, he was sitting in one of our sensory booths and tasting different beers, and there was like 3-4 people videoing him around. And then it was really cool. And I like when people come up with ideas and then they just have to run it too. I don't think I've ever met him, because they were doing it. They were taking off with it. And yeah. Cool.
I love it when big stars like that are very accessible and just say, "Hey, you know what? This sounds great. Let's just run with it." So, yeah,
I know. I mean, he could have said like, "No, I'm not going to do that." But we knew that he was very proud of being from Kansas City, and I mean, yeah, we are proud to be in Kansas City too. And I think he's a big deal in Kansas City. We're somewhat of a deal in Kansas City, so I kind of figured between the two of us, it might work.
It just might.
Looked like it did. It seemed to work out.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break, but we'll be back soon with more from Boulevard Brewing. Is your brewery or restaurant flooring all jacked up? Your foundation needs to be protected from heat, chemicals, and other contaminants. At the same time, you want to make sure it's slip resistant and you can clean up your messes with soap and water. You know who to call? ResTech. We've been manufacturing poured-in-place flooring since 2002, and we've got solutions to fit any facility's needs. Go on and visit our website at restech.net. That's RES-TEK.net. Drop us a line and we will come to you for a free evaluation.
Oh, yeah. Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to our newest radio affiliates, and that's affiliates plural, both in New Hampshire, WUVR 1490 AM in Lebanon, and WNTK 99.7 FM in New London. Catch Beer Guys Radio on WUVR and WNTK every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Now let's get back to our talk with Boulevard's Stephen Pauwels.
Well, Stephen, we figured we'd kind of keep the collab talk going here a little bit and kind of move along with one we're sipping on right now, the Space Camper Cosmic IPA. So can you tell us a little bit about this beer?
Yeah, it's, I think Boulevard has never been a really doing very well in the IPA category. And then but we still do a lot of hop testing. And we like to keep up with the new hops and stuff. And at one point, we had an IPA in our tasting room that was an Eldorado IPA, and people just loved it. And based on that, we just thought, like, wait, maybe it's time that we make an IPA. And what we wanted to do is make something, like everybody else. And we're very fruit forward, very juicy. But, we played with all the different yeast strains that everybody else was playing with. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we need to go there. So we kept the yeast strain going that we have in-house, that we know what it produces. And that's how we kind of came up with this. So it's pretty Eldorado forward and very basic when it comes to malt. But, we wanted to make something that's very accessible, very drinkable, and, kind of somewhat the trend in the IPAs right now, low IBUs, but very flavorful forward. Even my wife, who is not a beer lover at all, drank it. She's like, "Wow, you finally made a good beer." It's like, Thanks, honey.
Finally.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, hon.
Thanks for all the support. So when you say, are you saying that you use the same yeast in this that you used in Tank 7?
No. Tank 7 is
Okay.
total different. That's a different yeast strain.
Okay.
This is a yeast strain that we've been using for quite a while for IPAs. It's just a pretty neutral, has some nice fruit aromas, but it doesn't really disturb any of the hop aromas that we want.
Because I remember hearing something about you bringing over yeast in like your pocket at some point to make. I think that was to make Tank 7. No, or was that to make one of the wit beers? I can't remember which one it was.
Are you a yeast smuggler, Stephen? Are you smuggling covert yeast there?
I did.
Okay.
I smuggled Tank 7 yeast into the US. I did. Now I might be in trouble now. Are you guys going to bail me out if I get in trouble?
We got you, man. We got you covered here.
We'll be there with bail
Okay,
money.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, this beer was I see that it is the exclusive craft beer of the upcoming X-Men movie, Dark Phoenix. How did that come to be?
I should know, but I don't know. I think, but it's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is very cool.
I think here lately, Boulevard has done, a lot of cool stuff. Natalie, who runs our marketing, she's a very outgoing personality. She's great. And, I think she just probably knew people on that side and just basically called them like, hey, we got this beer. And I think it fits just perfect with what you guys want to do. But, it's a space camper. Why wouldn't it fit, right?
Oh, it definitely does. And, I read that it's going to be featured in the AMC theaters that have bars. I have one within a mile of my house that has a bar. I will be drinking Space Camper every time I see it there, for sure.
We succeeded. That's awesome.
There you go. Success. And something that I think everybody needs to know, on the Boulevard website, there is a Space Camper video game.
There is.
And it's got a retro kind of Space Invaders meets Galaga thing. And it's frustrating. It's a very frustrating video. They'll shoot you sideways, Brian.
That's right. They will shoot you
can't
sideways.
Run from it.
They will cheat, but you will keep coming back trying to beat them.
Yeah.
So, it's addictive.
Stephen, what's your high score on the game?
I to be honest, I played it for like a full day. While I should have been working, and I got to that one level, and I got killed all the time at that same level. And I'm like, okay, that's it, I'm done, and I didn't play it after that. So yeah. But I wasted about a day on it. Yeah.
But if you check our website after this show comes out, we'll give you a link to the video game on the website so you can go check it out yourself.
And I think I beat Tim's high score. I think.
I doubt that, Brian.
Oh, have you gone beyond the last posted high score?
I scored 10,000. I don't know what you
did.
Got.
You?
No, I didn't.
It sounds like a lie to me.
It's a lie. Yeah. It's a total lie. Yes. And one more collaboration talk. You did an endorsement deal, I guess, with the Royals with second baseman Whit Merrifield. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a fun one too. That's one of those fun ones that we've been sponsoring the Royals. I think we were the first one to sponsor or get really close involved with a Major League Baseball team. And the Royals are so inherited in Kansas City. It can't get any closer than that.
Yeah, I am a bandwagon Braves fan now because I've been in Atlanta almost 20 years, but I grew up in Nebraska and the Royals were the closest local team there. So as a kid, I was a huge Royals fan. This was back in the days of, George Brett, Dan Quisenberry and that playing for the Royals. And I wrote to him back, does anybody remember getting the World Almanac and you could get like addresses of sports teams and things? But I wrote off to the team and I'm like, hey, I'm a kid in Nebraska. I'm a big fan. I got a couple autograph pictures from the team. So that was a big day for me in the Royals there.
So is that unfiltered wheat, is that still your top selling beer at Boulevard?
It is. Yeah. That's the number one for sure. And it's a tough one because I think a lot of regional breweries, your number one brand is really has a hard time, and that's tough for us too. It still is probably the beer that people know Boulevard of. Like I said, I was in California this weekend, and people show up and like, I'm here for an unfiltered wheat beer. I'm like, I'm not pouring unfiltered wheat beer at the Firestone Walker Invitational. Okay. And they're like, well, that's the beer I grew up with. I know, sorry about that, but it still is number one. The Tank 7 is coming, of course, a very close second, and then Space Camper is number 3 right now already.
Yes, Base Camper's really taking off. It's a good beer.
Well, so many people, and you see, like if you talk in the online forums with the people that are the hardcore beer geeks, like the type of beer geeks that would talk about beer online or do something absolutely ridiculous like start a radio show about beer.
Yes.
Those kind of people are the ones that you'll occasionally see something that's like, why doesn't every brewery brew milkshake IPAs or brew Northeast IPAs? Just go that. These are the hot, popular ones in that. I heard a cork pop over there, Brian.
That might have been the Saison-Brett from 2013 that I'm opening.
Yeah, but I think if you talk to any, especially good-sized brewer, about what their best-selling beers are, they're not these triple mega dry hop milkshake IPAs. You know, it's a Pilsner, it's a wheat beer, it's a Golden Ale, you know, something along those lines. These are the beers the masses drink, and they drink in quantity. Would you say I'm accurate there, Stephen?
You are absolutely. You know, it's definitely you know, we as me as a beer maker and you as a beer geek or aficionado, how you want to say it, you know, we always look at the extremes and think, okay, this is what people really going to talk about. That's what people drink. But you know, every day there's people that come to the brewery and say like, so what kind of beers are you making? We make unfiltered wheat beer. Duh. And they're like, oh, I had no idea. So you think that everybody knows everything about what we do, but that's not true. We still convert people from, you know, any kind of other regular domestic beer to, you know, some of our beers. It's always funny to hear the jump from somebody like, you know what, I really enjoy Tank 7. Oh, cool. What were you drinking before? Miller Lite. Really? You made the jump from Miller Lite to Tank 7? I mean, it's like,
that's a good jump.
Right? Hey, that pop, that sounded like music in my ears. By the way, good job.
See, yeah, I heard it. It broke my train of thought there, Brian. So, I tell you what, we're sipping a Saison-Brett. Can you tell it? This is a 2013, Brian.
2013, yes.
2013 Saison-Brett. So, can you tell us a little bit about this series?
Saison-Brett to me, it's a very interesting beer. It was one of those things. We made Saison when we started with Smokestack series. I'm talking 10 years ago now. And then the Saison wasn't really selling well. I'm like, okay, how can I make a Saison more earthy, more farm-like? And well, you know, we ended up with working with Brettanomyces. Working with Brettanomyces, I think it's just very, very interesting. Now, you know, we were probably one of the first ones. And if you talk about a living beer, I think this is like the living beer. It just keeps changing. For me, the ideal Saison-Brett is we release it when the beer is about 3 months old, and I like it.
I think it's fantastic. It's excellent. A nice balance, complexity in that. It's really, really tasty. And you know what? We're going to sip this as we take another break. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We'll be back very soon with more from Boulevard Brewing.
We are Reformation Brewery, celebrating the reformer in you. Locally crafted within the renowned Etowah watershed of Woodstock, Georgia, Reformation creates yeast-forward brews full of aroma and flavor crafted to last. Come see us in beautiful Woodstock, Georgia, for a tour and tasting of unique brews that you can't find anywhere else. Reformation Brewery. Set beer free. ReformationBrewery.com.
As a brewery owner or taproom manager, are you looking for ways to enhance your customer experience while maximizing your revenues? Craft Cellar is a mobile solution that helps your brewery drive sales and attract new customers through online pre-sales for beer releases, events, and memberships. Get details now at craftcellar.com. Mention Beer Guys Radio after sign up and extend your free trial to a full 30 days. Remember craftcellar.com, craftcellr.com.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day. So, you know, if you want to, go ahead and wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons can get some cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now more from Boulevard Brewing's Stephen Pauwels.
So, Stephen, we just opened another, I believe, very new beer for you, the part of your First Fridays collection. We have some Hold the Pancakes here. So, can you tell us about Hold the Pancakes and exactly what First Fridays is?
So First Fridays it's an event here in Kansas City. I think it's in a couple of cities around the U.S. It's the First Fridays, and it's a very artsy kind of scene. You go and walk around here in the art district and go and see a lot of different art everywhere. And John McDonald, when he started the brewery, he's always very connected to this because we're kind of in the middle of, or a little bit on the outskirts of this same district. And we use this term for us as brewers to kind of also paint our canvases and just go out and just be artsy and do whatever we want to do. So this beer is a kind of a sister of another beer that we made. And we call it, that was in our Brewhouse 1 series. And the Brewhouse 1 series are beers that we just launch just in our tasting room. They're like unique beers that we just launch and just sell on site. And our sales guys were like, well, how come we can't get any of these? And we're like, okay, well, we'll do this too. We'll just make some for you guys too. And this is actually the first beer that came out in this First Friday series. So it's limited. It's very small amount of beer and fun things that we like to experiment with. And in this case, it's brown ale. There's some it's blended with an imperial stout. It's double barrel aged and tons of maple syrup, and part of it is aged in maple casks also. So it's all about making a canvas, creating flavors and coming up with some cool stuff.
And Brian, FYI, I read on the Boulevard website that one of the recommended pairings for this beer is bold cigars.
I could see that. Yeah. It makes sense.
Gonna have to try that out, see how it works. Huh?
Speaking of First Fridays, I actually knew what that was because back when I lived in Portland, this is a lot of years ago, there was First Fridays, and we'd go through the Pearl District and just walk around drinking beverages and check out the little art galleries. And they were all open late on the First Friday. Pretty cool little thing.
Well, I'd seen places around here doing it, but to be honest, I didn't know if it was a Georgia thing or just, a kind of little thing here. But it sounds like it is not just a Georgia thing.
It's been around for a long time. It is it's a lot of fun. You just, no expectations. Just walk into the galleries, check out what they're showing, have some beverages, maybe some appetizers, and move on to the next one. It's actually a lot of fun.
See, I lived in Podunk, Arkansas for my younger years, so they didn't do a lot.
You didn't have First Fridays there?
There was not a large arts community in that area. So, yeah. Well, Stephen, we wanted to get, I guess, a little nerdy kind of on processes and something. And one thing I saw is, and correct me if I'm mistaken here, but do you still do step mashing for all of your beers?
Are there people out there who don't?
So there one or two?
Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah, we do. We do step mashes. It's just, it's just what that's kind of the European dude in me, I guess, or the Belgian in me. It's just, the main brand that, like we talked about earlier, is unfiltered wheat beer, and making that without a step mash would be somewhat problematic, I think, for stability reasons. So we do step mashes on everything. Yeah.
So for those that aren't aware, what is step mashing and kind of what are the benefits to it?
Well, step mashing is, I don't know what the benefit is for a single step infusion, to be honest. Step mashing is, there's enzymes working at different temperatures. I'm just talking about your beta amylase and your alpha amylase, and they both have their ideal temperatures, optimum temperatures, what they work at. And I mean, by doing that, you get, a mash, different temperatures, you can create somewhat a different flavor profile in your beer, or at least when it comes to mouthfeel.
I was going to say, it probably helps you dial in your body if you have a step for the alpha and the step for the beta in different places at different times for different durations. I think a lot of places will pick a mash temperature and let it sit there and let the two do whatever they're going to do in that time. But if you have multiple steps in there, you let them do on a more controlled basis what you want them to do. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So like talked about Saison-Brett, if we didn't do step mash, I don't know how we can get that beer so dry and then you put it in a bottle, and I'm not sure what would happen with the Brett in it, because the Brett is just dosed as a bottle conditioning yeast. So it might, that pop could have been a lot harder if we didn't do step mash, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, I mean, in America, at least, that's uncommon, because like you said, you pick a mash temperature and you say, okay, 148, that's our mash temp. Get it to 148 and hold it there for, 60 minutes or whatever. Interesting that's kind of standard in the US. And I sense a little chip on the shoulder. Is that I don't know if that's the right word, a little disdain for the single infusion mash?
Oh, no, I don't think so. No, I'm not at all. It's just,
okay. All right.
No. And every brewer does whatever he does and whatever he thinks is the right thing to do. Yeah, I think it's just very common for me too. And to be honest, I think we lost kind of quite a few brewers here a couple of years ago, and have all these new brewers, and not one of them actually brought it up to me, and they all had brewing experience. Not one of them asked me like, "Hey, why do we do step infusion?" So I'm kind of surprised by the question, I guess, because we just take it for granted here.
Looking into some background for the show, I noticed that an ongoing theme whenever you talk to anybody in the media is continuous innovation, and it's a big deal of what you've been doing at Boulevard. So, what are some of your more recent innovations?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, I've been I'm a little side here because we just came out with a line of ready-to-drink cocktails. They have nothing to do with beer. It's all about we buy the distilled spirits from local distilleries, and we mix them together and come up with a cocktail. And I've been working on those for probably about the last year or so. So again, nothing to do with beer, but it was interesting because I brought some to Firestone Walker, and people are standing in line, and I just poured them like, I'm not really that fond of beer. Like I'll just here's a cocktail, here's a gin and tonic, and like, oh, this is so refreshing. So it's kind of interesting, that as a brewer, all of a sudden become a mixologist. We're doing a lot of stuff with barrels. The guy that runs our barrel program, Ryan, he's phenomenal on. Been doing a lot of stuff with coffee. We have a collaboration coming out with Modern Times, and they are fantastic when it comes to coffee. Different, very, very much, a lot of different directions, to be honest.
I'm so excited that you said coffee. The eyes rolled in the back
of my head. Too late, Brian. You can't go off on a coffee tangent.
Can I not?
No, you have to save this for another day.
Can I bring up coffee ale?
Okay, we'll allow that, but make it quick, Brian.
Okay, coffee ale. Is it ever going to return? Also, Harvest Dance.
So coffee, I don't think about coffee ale is going to come back. And we made coffee ale because everybody who was working with coffee is making coffee stouts. So I'm like, why are we all making coffee stouts? Why don't we just make the coffee really shine more through and not get anything influenced by, the roasted barley or the roasted malt that's in the beer. So we just wanted to make that, and I think it came out okay. And Harvest Stands, I think, was a very interesting one because we talked about this. Like wheat wines are kind of, nobody makes a wheat wine anymore.
Kind of a dead style a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and we were actually some of the first ones that we made. So the wheat wine, and then for the wine aspect, we were bottle conditioning it with grape juice, just to kind of get that really nice winey characteristic also in this wheat wine. And now there's a lot of hybrid beers on the market, and we've been doing some with Norton grapes. We're very specific here to Kansas. I'm sorry for Missouri. So yeah, it's thanks for bringing that up. Those are cool beers.
Good stuff. And you mentioned that. I agree 100% on what you said with coffee ale, and that was one of the reasons we loved it at the time. There were plenty of big, bold, barrel-aged, boozy beers that had coffee in it, but the coffee ale was about the coffee. It was just a good ale with a big coffee delivery, which was really nice.
Yeah. I thank you. And we did the same thing with chocolate. There's a ton of chocolate stouts out there. We made just a chocolate ale. Yep.
Sure.
Delightful.
Yeah, they were wonderful. So if people want to keep up with what's happening with Boulevard going on into the future, what's the best way to do that?
Probably social media. I think Jeremy Danner does a great job of sending out nuggets and stuff like that about what we're doing. And I think our website too. To be honest, I don't know because I don't do a lot of social media.
He makes the beer, man. He doesn't do all of that. That's right.
You know what? You could just give us your home phone number here. We won't tell anybody.
We'll just tell everybody to give you a call. Right.
That's right.
Sounds good. I'll tell my wife everybody's going to be calling.
That's right. Cool. Take notes. Absolutely. Well, Stephen, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This was a blast. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Coming up next week, we're going to be talking with one of Georgia's newest breweries, Schoolhouse Beer, and we'll learn about their open source concept. For more craft beer info, follow us online. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.
The Beer Guys Radio Show on the Beer Guys Radio Network. BeerGuysRadio.com.